On the night I was cast aside at my own son's wedding, I made one phone call that would shatter his empire and set a dangerous game in motion. But I never expected that the woman who stole my family would come back with a move so ruthless it could erase everything I had ever built. I am Eloise Hayes. I am 72 years old, and tonight is the night I discovered my place in my own son's story. The Charleston air was heavy with the fragrance of magnolia blossoms drifting across the river, and the sky outside had turned a strange copper hue before folding itself into the deep black of night. I wore a pale silk dress and the pearl earrings my mother had given me long ago, thinking that perhaps they might still carry meaning, that perhaps someone would notice them and remember where I came from. Outside on the lawn, a string quartet played beneath twinkling lights that dangled from oak branches, the music rising and falling like laughter carried on the humid air. It was supposed to be a night of family celebration, a night where I would be proud of what I had built, proud of my son, and proud of the life we had carved. But instead of being guided toward the long table at the heart of the reception, I was gently steered through a side door into a cramped, overheated room behind the kitchen. Servers in white shirts brushed past me, balancing trays of oysters and champagne flutes, their shoes tapping against the tile, their voices hushed, their eyes flicking toward me with quick, uncertain glances, as if they were witnessing something cruel, yet dared not interfere. They pointed me to a small table wedged between a rolling cart of stacked plates and the swinging door that slammed each time another tray of food was carried out to the celebrating guests. And it was there that I realized my son and his new wife had decided I was not part of the picture. Harper swept into the room then, her lace gown trailing behind her, every diamond on her glittering as though she had been born to wear them. Her lips stretched wide in a smile, but her voice was sharp enough to slice glass. She stopped near the counter, her words loud enough to carry. "The kitchen help can eat back here." She did not look at me, not once. Her eyes slid past me, through me, as though I was nothing more than wallpaper. The staff shifted uncomfortably, some bowing their heads, others pretending to be busy with trays. I looked through the doorway and saw Lucas, my son, my only child, standing tall among men, discussing a new property deal. His cufflinks gleamed as he adjusted them, nodding, smiling, playing his part. He had seen what Harper had done. He had seen where I sat. And he had done nothing. My fingers tightened around the cold champagne flute in my hand, the weight of years pressing down like lead. I placed the untouched glass onto the table and reached into my clutch. The phone was smooth and familiar, a talisman of control. I pressed one number, and Victor answered on the second ring, his voice steady. "Eloise," he said. And I whispered almost gently, "Cancel the $28 million real estate deal Lucas is planning to announce tonight." A pause on the line, the sound of his breath. Then simply, "Understood." I slid the phone back into my clutch and sat in silence. The music from the lawn carried through the open door, mingling with the laughter of people toasting to a future they thought already theirs. But in that small, overheated room, I felt the air clear inside me. It was not a defeat. It was the first move. Weeks later, Lucas appeared at my door, worn and rumpled. Harper gone, his friends vanished, his deals collapsed. He held a crayon drawing from childhood of me in an apron, holding a hammer with the words, "My mom is a builder." And he wept apologies for the wedding for letting someone else decide my meaning. I told him, forgiveness is not erasing the past, but a chance to build better. I invited him to begin by working on community projects through the scholarship program. He agreed, and soon I watched him teaching children design basics, sanding wood, and painting benches. And for a time hope flickered. Perhaps redemption was possible. Perhaps blood still tied us together. The library project became our ground of renewal. I stood beside Lucas as sunlight streamed through tall glass windows where volunteers moved with laughter and purpose. I looked at him not as the man who had once betrayed me, but as the boy who used to wait for me to close the magic folder and ask if there would be groceries. His hands were steady again, his smile real. And I felt the bond between us knit itself back together, not with perfection, but with honesty. Harper's absence became permanent. Her name slipped from the circles she once craved. Her invitations dried up. Her allies were gone. Her power is hollow. She had overplayed her hand. And in the silence she left behind, I found peace. Not the peace of quiet surrender, but the peace of a woman who had fought her battles and protected what mattered. I had built Hayes and Company from nothing, and though the firm had shifted and grown, it was once again rooted in my vision, in my strength, and in the promise that my legacy would empower others long after I was gone. The night the library opened to the community, Lucas stood beside me with children tugging at his sleeves, asking him to show them how to measure wood and sketch rooftops. The laughter rose around us, music played, and I realized this was what endurance looked like. Not the grand dinners or the polished photographs, but the steady rebuilding of trust, the simple joy of creating together, and the knowledge that no one could erase me from the story I had written with my own hands. I lifted my head toward the sky, dark and velvet above Charleston, the magnolias sweet on the breeze, and I felt my mother's pearls cool against my skin. They meant something after all. They meant I had endured and prevailed. And tonight, for the first time in years, I knew without doubt that the story had ended well, because it was still mine.